If you own a 2014 or 2015 Silverado like the truck I got here with me today, and you're looking for the most affordable armor bumper upgrade that's currently available, you should be checking out the Extreme HD from Barricade. Even though this is the most affordable option, it's still got a lot going for it in terms of features and overall build quality that I think makes it comparable to some of the more expensive options, honestly. One thing I really like about this in particular is how thick the steel is. This is made out of 5/32 steel plate, and it is all welded as one piece. It's also got a nice black powder coat finish on it, so if you decide to take your truck off-road or you run it through some debris or things like that, you don't have to worry about the finish flaking off on here. Other thing I really like about this bumper is it allows you to retain your factory tow hooks, and there are tons of options for lighting if you decide to get creative. It actually includes mounts up front here, so you can install a light bar of your choice. And even though you are losing your factory fog lights, they can also be easily replaced thanks to this removable mesh insert on either side of the grille. Other than that, the install is also very easy, and as you can see, it fits quite well. It also removes that plastic factory trim piece that's painted. I actually think it makes the truck look a little bit cleaner personally. So if you like the price of the bumper, you like the way it looks, and you like the overall quality, you should stick around. I'm going to show you guys how to get this installed step by step, so you can definitely get this done at home with the help of a friend and some basic hand tools. It shouldn't take you more than an hour or two. For that reason, I'm going to give the install pretty easy, 1 out of 3 wrenches on my difficulty meter. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. To install your Barricade bumper, you're going to need the following tools: a flathead screwdriver or a pry tool, a T20 Torx bit, a 7mm socket, a 10mm socket, a 13mm socket, a 15mm socket, a 16mm socket, and an 18mm socket with drive ratchets. You will also need short and long extensions. You'll also need a 16mm wrench and an 18mm wrench. Optional but helpful tools include a swivel socket, a cordless impact, and an air ratchet. So before we install our new Barricade bumper, we obviously have to remove our factory bumper and the surrounding hardware. First step is removing our painted bumper cover right here. There are 4 screws holding it in place, 2 on either side just inside the fender well. To remove these screws, you're going to need a 7mm socket, and one of them is a bit of a squeeze, so if you're using a power tool like this, you're going to want an extension. So now that we have those 4 screws removed, we can crawl underneath the truck and we can remove that plastic cover by pushing on the retaining clips inside here. It's pretty easy to do. You might want to have a flathead screwdriver or a plastic pry tool, make it a lot easier on yourself. So now that we have that plastic cover removed, we have to remove our grille. To access the hardware holding the grille in place, we have to pop off our radiator cover. This is held on with plastic push pins, so you can use that same flathead screwdriver or that plastic pry tool that you used on the cover earlier. So with that radiator cover removed, we can now get to the hardware holding the grille in place. There are 4 screws on top and 4 on the bottom. All of them are 10mm heads, so you're going to need a 10mm socket. And for the ones on the bottom, some of them are recessed, so you'll also want to get an extension of some sort. Now that we have our grille removed, we can finally start removing our bumper. There are 2 support brackets inside of the truck that we have to pull off from the truck side. To remove those, you're going to need a 13mm socket, and if you're using a power tool like me, it's a tight fit, so you might want to have a swivel as well. So once you got those bumper supports removed underneath, you can then unplug your factory fog light harness. So with those 2 support brackets underneath removed, we can finally remove the bumper itself from the vehicle. To do that, you're going to pull 4 bolts from the top here. To remove those bolts, you're going to need an 18mm socket. 2 of them are recessed down further, so you're also going to need an extension. So before you pull that last bolt securing the bumper to the vehicle, make sure you have a good tight grip on it, or make sure you have a friend with you. It will rest on the brackets that you just pulled those bolts from. However, it is pretty heavy, so once you go to remove it, you just want to make sure that doesn't fall down and crush your feet. Now that we have our factory bumper removed, we can also remove our factory bumper brackets located on either side of the frame. To remove these brackets, you're going to need a 15mm socket. Now we also want to retain our factory tow hooks, which this new bumper does allow. So we're going to go ahead and remove those tow hooks now, make room for those tow hook extension brackets that came in the kit. So now that our factory tow hooks and factory bumper brackets are removed, we can start tackling some of the smaller stuff we have to get out of the way before we can install our new bumper. You gotta pull these two plastic retaining clips here underneath your factory headlights. These were originally in place because they held that plastic painted piece that we removed earlier, but we are not reinstalling that with our new bumper. So to remove these, you're gonna need a T20 Torx bit. It's a pretty tight fit under there, so you probably won't be able to use any power tools. I'd recommend a small hand ratchet. So now that we have all that factory hardware removed, we can begin installing our new bumper. But before we do that, I wanted to put both bumpers next to each other, that we can see how much of a big difference Barricade's new option really does make. Obviously, the big thing to note is that we're ditching the chrome finish. This one comes with that nice matte black powder coat finish, which will certainly stand up a lot better to daily abuse, especially if you take your truck off-road. The other thing that I really like about this bumper is how much higher up it sits. You can see that while it might look bulky on the product page compared to the factory bumper, it's actually a lot sleeker and slimmer in my personal opinion, and I'm a big fan of that. Other thing I really like about the Barricade bumper is it retains the option for you to install auxiliary lighting. Got some cutouts towards the center here, and you can see these little mesh grills on either side. Those are actually removable. So if you want to play around or get a little creative with your own lighting setup, you can certainly do so. There's plenty of space inside of here for you to route all that wiring if you want to. Other than that, again, this is a bolt-on application, so I'm going to show you guys how to put those new bumper brackets on so we can finally throw this thing on our truck. So like I mentioned earlier, we do want to retain our factory tow hooks. To do that, we're going to install this provided tow hook extension bracket. We're also going to secure that bracket to the frame with these bolt plates. You're going to grab the single bolt plate and the double bolt plate, and you want the long ends of those facing inward. You're going to put those through the holes where we removed our original tow hooks. Once you have those bolt plates in place with the new extension bracket, you can secure it to the frame using the provided hardware. You're going to grab one of the flat washers, one of the crush washers, one of these larger 18mm head nuts. You're also going to need an 18mm socket to tighten all this down. So now that that bracket is tightened down, we can reinstall our factory tow hook. To install the factory tow hook, you're going to reuse your factory hardware, these two nuts and bolts. You're also going to need these brackets that came with the kit. This is going to accommodate that wider width of the extension bracket. Now that our tow hook is finally in place, we can install our new bumper bracket to the frame. You're going to reuse your factory hex bolts from the original bumper brackets, and again, you're going to need a 15mm socket to tighten these down. So our driver's side bracket is in place. Our driver's side is now ready for our new bumper. We're going to do the same exact stuff to the passenger side, and then we can finally get our new bumper in place. So we went ahead and test fit our bumper before actually installing any hardware, and unfortunately we found that this plastic piece right here is interfering with the sides of the bumper. So we're going to remove this plastic piece. There are 3 screws holding it in place from the inside. We need to tackle those with a 7mm socket and a small ratchet. Once you remove those 3 screws, there's one more right here inside the fender well. Go ahead and pull that and you should be able to remove this plastic piece. We're going to do that on both sides. So now that we have those trim pieces out of the way, we test fit our new bumper and everything lines up just fine. Now we can finally install our bumper on our truck. Now this is where you want to take your time and be careful and have a floor jack or a friend help hold the bumper in place. It is obviously a heavy piece of steel. After all, you don't want this thing falling on you. What you're going to want to do is get the bumper up on the brackets, have that friend line up the holes on the bumper and the brackets, or just take your time with that floor jack and make some adjustments until you get everything lined up. Once you've lined all the holes up, you can thread your remaining hex bolts with flat washers on them through those holes. That should secure the bumper in place. I can't show you guys this step right now because I'm going to be crawling underneath there. But once I get everything in place, we'll put the truck back up in the air on our lift and I can show you guys how all this gets tightened down. So now that our truck is up in the air again, I can show you guys how those hex bolts are securing the bumper to the new brackets. Again, this is just held in place, so you want to take your time and be careful here and make sure you don't bump this thing around too much, no pun intended. It could come loose. You're going to loosely tighten all the hardware onto those hex bolts. You're going to grab these smaller lock washers, flat washers, and these 16mm nuts. Hand thread those on there. That'll keep the bumper from falling off. Then you're going to make your final adjustments to the bumper. Once the bumper's lined up, to tighten this stuff down again, you're going to need a 16mm socket and a 16mm wrench. So with a little bit of magic and some help from my pull jacks here, I got my bumper lined up and everything is clearing nicely. I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything down now. Again, you're going to need a 16mm socket and a 16mm wrench to tackle those nuts and bolts. If you're using a power tool like me, you're going to want a long extension so you can reach inside here over the frame to tighten down those bolts. So now that our bumper is lined up and everything's tightened down appropriately, we can reinstall our grille and our radiator cover. The install steps do tell you to install the grille after the removal of the factory bumper and before you put the new one on. But if your new bumper is aligned correctly, you'll be able to reinstall the grille after your new bumper is in place. We held off on this step because we wanted to have plenty of space to work around and make sure we got this thing lined up appropriately. Once you put your grille back on, it's just a matter of putting your radiator cover back on with those push pins. So once you got your radiator cover in place and your grille's back on nice and tight, that actually wraps up the install of the bumper itself. If you live in a state that requires a front license plate, you would install the optional bracket with the provided hardware in the kit. Pretty easy to do. And if you wanted to install a light bar of your choice, again, you have those brackets as well. Other than that though, that actually wraps up my review of the Barricade Extreme HD front bumper fitting your 2014 and 2015 Silverado. I'm Travis, thanks for watching, and for all things Silverado, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.